So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Hughes, Health Promotion, University Health Services, and I use the She series. And I'm excited to be here with you today to review and communicate key elements of our University Health Services, social services, alcohol and other drug counseling and resource availability. So let's just do a quick introduction, maybe Robin, Aaron Sabel, and Darius.
Great. Hi, Karen. My name is Robin Walley, she, her pronouns. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in social services in the Tang Center, and I specialize in doing alcohol and other drug counseling.
Hi, my name is Aaron Sabel. I'm a student at Cal and a Party at Safe Cal peer advocate.
Hi, Karen. My name is Darius Taylor. I'm a second-year post-MSW fellow. I work in both CAPS and social services. Great.
So Robin, can you just update us on the resources and counseling available a little bit for students with a particular emphasis on like when and what and who are they useful for?
Yeah, so in social services in the Tang Center, we offer both individual counseling and group counseling and help finding other resources related to alcohol and other drugs. We're there to support students around the entire harm reduction spectrum of goals. So that includes services for students who are looking to get sober or maintain no use of a substance or any substances, as well as for any students who are trying to make any sort of adjustments or maintain adjustments around their use, no matter what that looks like. So we do consider ourselves a harm reduction service, again, that includes all of those different kinds of goals. Our individual counseling and our groups are free. There are some limits as to how long students can meet with us, but we can guide students through that and tell them more about how that works. Our groups are available to students as many semesters as they'd like to join them. Yeah, and again, they can be useful for students anywhere in their process with making or maintaining changes. So students don't have to wait until they're really, really struggling around these topics to come and meet with us. People can come if they just are starting to consider making adjustments or just honing it in on exactly what works right for them.
Quick follow-up on that. If I'm concerned about somebody else, it's not necessarily myself and my own change, how is that useful to me? Can I use your services?
Absolutely. We also meet with students who are concerned about someone else. So that could be a friend, a partner, a roommate, a parent, a sibling, could be anyone in their lives. And so we definitely can meet with students in the same way like that.
Thanks.
I have a question for Darius. As for students, how would students be able to make an appointment, and what should they expect when they call to make an appointment with social services and for alcohol or drug counseling?
Thanks for that question, Aaron Sabel. Well, making an appointment is incredibly simple. You can call the number to social services. The number is 510-642-6074. And after they give a call, they will either get a live person, and in that event, they'll just simply tell them what they're looking for. They can tell them a little bit about, the challenges that they're having, and they'll set them up with a counselor. And typically speaking, they'll offer them an appointment within like the next day to a week or so. What they can expect after that is to either schedule that phone or that video appointment or even in-person appointment, and get a reminder via the eTang portal the day before, just to let them know, that the appointment is happening. And then they'll meet with that respective counselor, and then they can begin. So it can be a very quick process. Probably the most difficult thing is calling. What clients can also maybe expect if they're calling after hours is to get a voicemail, in which case they can leave their name. They can also leave kind of the reason why they're calling, and someone will follow up with them usually within the next 24 hours. So either way, they call that number, they'll get the services and the support that they need.
I'll jump in and add too that we really encourage students to ask for what they're looking for. So both, like Darius said, around the topic, and also if students have preferences around identities of their counselors. We have a team of people who do alcohol and drug work here. It's a smallish team, but there are different options. And so people can say if they have preferences about who they might meet with.
Yeah, that's a good.
Thank you.
So thank you. That's leads me to want to ask, given the counseling services and resources, what do you find have been some common barriers, real and or perceived, that students tend to have about using the services, accessing the services? Are there common myths that you'd like to dispel to make sure people have a real understanding and access in ways that are useful? Robin?
Sure. I think there are a bunch of them. I'll say to start, I think it can be really hard to make a decision to speak with someone who specializes in doing alcohol and other drug work, where that's the actual topic, that someone's setting an appointment for. It can feel really intimidating, as though some people feel like they need to have reached a certain threshold of concern around the topic, or need to have a label for it, like calling it a problem, like now that it's a problem, now I'm ready to talk about, or now it's time to talk about it. Where we really, really take the stance that it's an okay time to talk about this, no matter how minor or major this is in someone's life, how big of a deal or not that big of a deal it is. We really, really want to encourage students to reach out if they're ever interested in talking about it. And so at any level. And so I think a barrier can be wondering, like, is it bad enough yet? Or is it a problem? Is it worth it to see someone who does specifically that kind of work? And related to that is the concern that those of us who do this work might be really judgmental, that we might assume a lot about students if they're coming in and want to talk about this topic. A lot of students come in and assume that we're going to tell them that there's only one answer to all of this, that choosing not to use a particular substance or substances as a whole is literally the only answer, which is not the case. Again, we work with plenty of students who are working on not using substances or identify as being in recovery. That's absolutely part of what we do. However, we are not there to tell people what they have to do or to assume what goals work best for people. We're really there to help students figure out for themselves, with our support, what might work best for them. Or, some students come to us knowing exactly what already works for them. They just like some support maintaining that or getting there. So those can be some things that do get in the way. And also, a concern about, will the counselor I meet with get me or understand me? And that could be just like I was talking about our perspective on substance use, about any substances, or it also could be about people's identities and life experiences. Is the counselor I meet with going to see me and get my experience with my particular identity intersections? And so our hope is, both by our stance in who we are, but also with having some different choices for students and who they can meet with, that we might be able to support students with whatever they're coming with and whoever they might be as well. And I will say students can also look us up on the UHS website. That can be helpful sometimes, seeing some of our names, our faces, and some of the things we've written about the different areas that we specialize in and our interests. And that sometimes can help students understand a little bit more about our perspective or who we might even be.
Great. It looks like, I wonder if Aaron, Sibel, and or Darius have other barriers or myths that they are aware of.
Well, I just wanted to chime in with another question. Following that is, if I'm a student that is under the age of legal substance use or using illegal substances, am I still welcome to come to these to CAPS and talk about what I would like to talk about? And can I be sure that I won't be, can I penalized for any illegal substance use or underage substance use?
Yeah, I'll definitely jump in on that. Client confidentiality is one of the tenets of doing the work that we do through social services. So that also applies to any kinds of use and any age of substance use. So all of that would be kept within the bounds of that confidential clinical agreement. What I'll also add is, even the reduction of that barrier is also a part of one of the things that could be helpful for students. Not only will you have that non-judgmental space, you'll also have the liberty to disclose such things as substance use, regardless of your age. And also, we do the service virtually at this point. So I'll also add to kind of some of the barriers that Robin shared already. Clients no longer have to be in person. They don't have to take any time out of their schedule. School is important. And so really, we're looking at social services as another area where we can support students in their academic performance. So yeah.
Okay, anything else anyone wants to add about barriers or myths? I think one maybe I would ask, is there a limit on the number of visits that are free to a social services counselor? And if I talk to you by phone or video, does it count in any different way than if I come to see you in person? So basically, when I get started, are there any sort of limits that I, should be just aware of? It's okay if they're there, but what should I be aware of?
Yeah. So it can be confusing sometimes how University Health Services mental health and counseling services are organized. We do have multiple different entrances into counseling, and where we do our alcohol and other drug specific work is under the social services unit. And so the structure is different than what CAPS's structure looks like right now this semester. And so at social services for alcohol and drug specific counseling, all the appointments are free, individual and group. There's no difference in that between phone, video, or in-person appointments. It's all the same kind of free appointment. It does not matter what students' insurance is to be able to access us. That's actually a common myth. I'm glad you brought this up about cost. Students do have concerns about can they access it if they don't have SHIP, and the answer is absolutely. Meeting with us, it's no different. You just need to be a registered student for the semester, or have purchased SHIP for the semester if you're taking the semester off. That's another way to access us. And there's not a specific number of sessions that where there's a limit. However, because we're a relatively small team, and there are a lot of students who could use our support, we can't meet with all students who'd like to meet with us weekly for long term. So we're not available to be someone's primary therapist weekly for, say, the entire time they're here at Cal. So there are some limits to how long we can meet with students, although there's not a structure that I could give you now where it's a certain number of specific sessions, so much as we can work with some students a little more frequently when they first come in, if they'd like that, and they could use some help getting started. And then we usually start spacing it out with students as they start making adjustments or having some successes with their goals. And people don't necessarily need, not everyone needs, to see someone weekly for long-term anyway. So we can be there to get someone started, to be a support in this area. If someone needs a little more help again, they can come back in and see us a few more times. And so we can be a little bit flexible with that. And of course, we can help students get connected with other resources, like I mentioned before, which can include if someone does want a weekly therapist, we can help them get connected with that in the community outside of the Tang Center if someone wants to have that ongoing. Or if someone needs more intensive care, for instance, we can help connect them with that as well. So hopefully that answers that question a bit.
Yeah, that was really good. Thanks. I have one more, of course, which is how would I know whether it would make better sense for me to see a counselor one-on-one or to go to a group? And are groups confidential? Because I assume I'm there with, other students. So how secure can I feel about confidentiality there?
So typically speaking, we have a preference that if you're engaged in group, you're also getting some kind of individual counseling as well, particularly with our AOD group. So that doesn't mean you have to be seeing a therapist every week, but we would like some individual engagement. With that being said, um, yes, confidentiality is always going to be a challenge, especially if you are speaking to a group context, but we do review confidentiality not only before any groups begin. Confidentiality agreements are sent out before the groups start. And we also review confidentiality within the group, typically on the first day, and it'll be repeated as needed, that the group is a confidential space. And it's definitely part of the group agreements that are typically discussed as well. So there's a strong interest in preserving that confidentiality so that those spaces can remain safe and brave.
So, and we always, or we hope that students see us at least once individually before they join groups, so they can talk with someone who does alcohol and the drug work here to really explore more of their goals and what the plan is for support as a whole, and understand a little bit more about what the group's about, so people can make a really informed choice when joining us. So that's how people can sort of sort through the decision making around what kind of services might be useful for them. And then the individual counselor that someone met with to start with can just be a point person for them. So they might check in with them every now and then, or could reach out if and when they want to. So, so at least there's someone who someone knows they can reach out to, in addition to the group facilitators. And then, yeah, everyone in the group is incredibly interested in maintaining their privacy and confidentiality. So everyone always is really, in support of that. So most students ask about that, just like Darius was saying. It could be a challenge internally ahead of time making the choice to go to a group. Oh my gosh, what does this mean if other students see me there and hear me talking about these things that are really personal and intimate? And always everyone in the group is incredibly interested in keeping everything very private and is very much bought into that. And of course, those of us who facilitate the groups, we maintain the same standards of confidentiality in group that we do also individually. And if you know another group member, that can happen every now and then. This campus is big, it doesn't happen that often, but when it does happen, then we as facilitators are there to talk with students about it also separately outside a group. What's the relationship, what's coming up, anything we can do to help manage that. Sometimes then students choose to be in different groups as the people they know, and sometimes they're perfectly comfortable with it depending on what the relationship is. So, but we're there to help sort through that.
All right, I think we have one more question.
Yes, the final question for Robin and Darius is, what do you love about what you and social services and alcohol and drug counseling does?
So many things. One of the things that comes to mind first is just being able to meet clients where they're at, students, which is a really big social work value, just being able to not make decisions for people, to really just engage in the self-determination of folks, and really just to help them set goals or realize goals, and really just be a point person for them and a support for them as they're navigating that journey and that process. That's the most empowering and amazing part of this process for me, is just being able to be a witness to that. Social services is such a progressive and really just like one of a kind resource that really aims to see and meet students where they're at, and really just be a non-judgmental support. So I really see a lot of my own values reflected within the social services program, department rather. And yeah, it's amazing. And I think most students who engage with it for whatever respective reason will walk away with a positive experience.
I'll add that I love, in this kind of work, I absolutely love helping students just get more comfortable, or helping them figure out how to be more comfortable with having conversations around alcohol and the drugs just in general, because there's so much that most of us trained in, like are taught through the world about whether or not it's even okay to acknowledge substance use at all, that people come with so much baggage around that and like big challenges with talking about it. And there could be incredibly huge repercussions too, of course, for many people with acknowledging out loud talking about substance use, and legal repercussions for some, et cetera. That it's incredibly gratifying to be able to be a part of helping create a space where hopefully students can start feeling more comfortable really openly acknowledging it, talking it through, sorting through what strategies might work for them, as opposed to having conversations about substances just be very all or nothing only. Like, substances are all bad or all good. And really, I love when the conversations in group or individually start getting more into the nuances of how do I find balance for myself around substance use? What does it mean to have balance? How do I get what I want from my choices around substances without the things I don't want? And again, sometimes that balance means taking a break from a substance or not using it. And sometimes finding balance means adjusting somehow and doing something a little bit different or avoiding a particular substance and paying attention to the other ones. It can mean all sorts of different things. And so it's incredibly, like I said, gratifying when having conversations with students, when people walk away and say, wow, okay, I didn't realize I actually could talk about this more like this, and recognize there might be a much broader array of options I could explore for how I can find balance for myself. Or being in a group space and helping students figure out how they can, or realize they actually may have some people they could talk to about this, as opposed to having to keep it a secret from other people in their lives.
Well, thank you all very much. Erin, Sibel, did you have something you want to add in?
I was just going to say thank you to Robin and Darius. I know that students are so grateful for people like you, the Tang Center, who provide this kind of space for us. It's so unique and valuable for students, and it's changed my experience at Cal so much, and I know it's impacted so many other people. So thank you guys for doing what you do.
And with that, thank you all. Bye-bye.